The number 2 Ohio State Buckeyes, 11-0, go on the road to take on the number 3 Michigan Wolverines. I think this is the first time all season that we've talked about Michigan. I was looking through our old games throughout the year on YouTube, and Brad, this is the first time we're talking about Michigan. 12 o'clock kickoff on Fox. We know what this game means in terms of playoff contentions, in terms of rivalry, and I mean, when you talk about two teams that truly hate each other, these two teams hate each other. And with the whole scandal going on with Jim Harbaugh, he's suspended. He won't be on the field for this one. It's just going to make it that much more intense. We heard what Jim Harbaugh said in his press conference about Ryan Day. Totally deflected the question about his respect for Ryan Day and that coaching staff and turned it into a statement about preparation for the Michigan Wolverines day in and day out leading up to this game. And look at the quarterback matchup. Kyle McCord coming into his first year at starter. He's going on the road for a tough one in the big house. He's had a pretty good year. 2,899 yards, 22 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. And then you look at J.J. McCarthy. Early on, he was in the Heisman contention. Jim Harbaugh gets suspended. And the last few weeks, we really haven't seen J.J. McCarthy play his best ball. He's had a great season, over 2,000 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Brad, I'll hand it over to you real quick. ESPN.com gives Michigan a 55% chance to win this game. Michigan currently favored by 3. I believe the spread was 4.5 or 5.5 earlier this week. It's going to continue to change as the week progresses. The over-under 46.5. Brad, I'll hand it over to you. Who wins this Big 10 East rivalry?
You know, Nate, I'm glad you brought up the quarterback battle because that to me has got to be maybe the biggest storyline of this game. Look, you brought up a great point. J.J. McCarthy for a while was considered the Heisman contender, and I know me and you had conversation about this. I think we were both questioning why. I mean, no disrespect. I personally think for the media attention he gets and like the hype that he gets, I think it's a little unwarranted and I think it's a little overblown. I mean, not to say he's a bad quarterback, but you know, he's got some very, very talented running backs, and I think that takes some pressure off him. Nate, I mean, I'm looking at his last 2 games. 2 weeks ago on the road at Penn State, his final stat line, he was 7 of 8 for 60 yards. Last week against Maryland, 12 of 23 for 141 yards. It's almost like they've lost a little bit of trust in him, which is very, very interesting. Kind of hard to figure out there with J.J. McCarthy. I say all that to say I think Kyle McCord right now is the better quarterback, and I think those stats are backing up. And Nate, before I get to my prediction, I think this is the big thing. We know Michigan with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, it is one of the best 1-2 running back punches in the country. Very, very dynamic running attack. Ohio State has one too. I think the difference is, and I got to say, Ohio State's defense is playing tremendous. They've got a great front 7. They've got a great front 4. And Nate, I think that's the difference in the game is that if that front 4 for Ohio State is able to shut down that rushing attack and put the game on J.J. McCarthy, I don't think he can get it done. And then on the flip side of that, look, Michigan's got to cover Marvin Harrison Jr. Is one of the top 2 or 3 players in college football. How do they scheme him? I don't know that Michigan has the secondary in a corner. I won't say to lock him down, but to keep him contained. For that reason, I'm going with the Buckeyes. And then the whole thing of Jim Harbaugh not being there, I think that's a big factor. So I'm going the Buckeyes in this one.
Brad, does it ever cross your mind that Jim Harbaugh is going to try to find a way to sneak into this game, maybe in a suite upstairs? I mean,
hey, you know, Nate, he can ask Connor. Is it Connor Stallions how to sneak into a game? Maybe they're gonna sit together.
I mean, you just have to wonder: is he really going to miss out on this game, or are we going to see him undercover with a mustache up in someone's suite?
Man,
this one's going to be exciting. When you compare the 2 quarterbacks, J.J. McCarthy has not played his best ball in the last 3 weeks. With the offensive coordinator taking over for Jim Harbaugh, it makes a big difference. People talk like, oh, it's still the same offense, it's still the same team, physicality, preparation, all those good terms that you use in football. But when it comes down to it, your mindset's different. As an offensive coordinator, your only job is to call plays, and that's it. As a head coach, your job is everything. You're managing coaching staff, you're managing clock, I mean, it's the whole works. It's CEO type mentality, right? And that's why when you look at a team like Georgia, who brings in Will Muschamp to help out. I mean, Kirby knows what he's doing, right? He brings in former head coaches because he knows that he can manage the game and he can trust his assistants to take over the other aspects of the game that are super important to winning football games. So when you look at a game like this in Michigan, you know, they're kind of lacking that right now. And that's no disrespect to the OC coming in to be the head coach. He's done a phenomenal job. He's handled it well. And they've played two tough, really tough road tests. I mean, back-to-back road games is not easy for a guy who's never had any head coaching experience to come in and play two tough teams, in my opinion. For this one, I'm going to go with the Michigan Wolverines. I just think you mentioned Edwards and Corum at the running back, 20 touchdowns on 180 carries. I mean, that's insane. That's Heisman numbers. And if it wasn't a quarterback award, you have to think Blake Corum's in the running for that, especially when he's sharing carries with Edwards. I mean, that's insane. I will say Roman Wilson I think it said he's probable for this game, but he was injured last week for Michigan, leading wide receiver. He's got 612 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's been a big part of J.J. McCarthy's offense. It's going to be a good game regardless. It's going to be close. It's going to be physical. It's going to come down to the last two drives. And honestly, Brad, I'm going to put this out here too. I think it's going to come down to a player that we really don't know much about, whether that's a defensive lineman coming up with a scoop and score, or a batted ball turns into an interception. Maybe a tight end, someone who's not necessarily a star athlete in this game. I think it's going to come up with a big play for Michigan. Give me the Michigan Wolverines. It's going to be a great one nonetheless. That concludes today's episode. When we come back next, we're going to discuss our Week 13 recap, and we're going to break down our championship weekend game day previews and predictions. You're not going to want to miss out. Please be sure to subscribe. Give this video a big thumbs up. Share it with your friends. Follow us on all socials at @BreakTheHuddle_. And be sure to turn on your bell notifications to stay up to date when we post our latest videos. And let us know in the comments who you believe will win this week's matchup. From Break the Huddle Studios, this is Nathan and Brad signing off.